Hi, I'm Hayden, and this is my final project for Introduction to Existentialism. Just to preface, I've probably recorded this introduction about 35, 40 times already, so fingers crossed. Anyways, over the next about 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to be giving you a crash course in existentialism, all right? All the things that you need to be looking for, the different types of nihilism, the things you need to be looking through, the lenses that you need to be using while reading. And then I'm also going to be talking about 3 different texts, Will to Power, The Rebel, and Existentialism is a Humanism, my personal favorite, all right? Throughout that, I'll weave in montages of me taking my dog for a walk, time lapse from the city, and awkward, really weird camera zooms. Just, break the ice, because we're going to talk about kind of the pointlessness of life and some really deep stuff for the next about 10-15 minutes. So, buckle up your seatbelts, get ready, because I'm about to take you for a ride that half you will probably regret and then drop the class afterwards. It happens every year. So, alright, so let's get started with political nihilism. Alright, so political nihilism is the rejection of all the political or governmental structures that our society has. So we're talking about government, we're talking about law enforcement, civil statutes, but one of the things that really sticks with me and helps me to understand this is family. We all know the phrase that blood is thicker than water, and hopefully you've done some of your own research and realize that's not the full quote. The actual quote is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. And to think about it this way is really important, because it's saying that the covenant that you make with your friends, with your people, that's something we can talk about later. But what it is that can be more important, and it should be thought of as more important than the bonds that we are expected to have because of blood, that we are expected to respect because of authority. So it's kind of the disavowalment that we should give that respect without it being earned. That there is no inherent importance to these structures. Alright, so we're going to move on from that into ethical nihilism. Ethical nihilism is the rejection that it's a rejection of the idea that there is a fundamental and universal morality or truth. It's saying that good and evil is hazy, and it is completely dependent person to person. For me, my morality could be oh, I think that it's right to rob a bank, to kill someone, whereas for someone else's, their morality might be, no, that's wrong. But this is the understanding and the rejection that there is no universal morality, that there is nothing that we must obey in society. And we'll go into this later. There are a lot of contradictions that you'll understand, and that we'll talk about in terms of situations that you will talk about, especially when you read A Stranger, and you have that discussion. But that's for later time. Sorry, Ms. Parker. And last but not least, we have cosmic nihilism. And I love this one the most, and you'll get a better understanding of this through Frankenstein. But cosmic nihilism is the ideology that the universe doesn't care about you, it won't change its plans about you. I think the best example of that is that right now, I would be recording this outside, but we're in the middle of a tornado warning in May. School lets out in 3 days. So it is evident that the universe does not care about my comfort, and here I am recording this inside. And that's a very quick overview of cosmic nihilism, but it's essentially that nature is indifferent to our wants, our needs, and that it will continue to go on without us, and we can do nothing to change that. Great, right? But we finally we cap all of this off by talking about existential nihilism, the keystone where we have to ask ourselves: does our life really have meaning? Do we really have an impact? And it's this idea that it doesn't have meaning, that it doesn't have an impact, that in 100 years, everybody that we've affected will be gone. Any trace that we've built upon our earth will be destroyed and wiped away by time, and that nothing we do really has any impact at all, which is kind of dreary. Anyways, that is a quick overview of that. I'll be back for more with Will to Power, The Rebel, and Existentialism is a Humanism, which this one is especially important. Sartre, when we talk about freedom, especially in conjunction with different types of nihilism and each other. Alright, so we're going to start off with Will to Power. Alright, so Will to Power was written throughout the 1800s by Friedrich Nietzsche, and it wasn't published until 1901 after he died, and that was published by his sister. And you'll talk about the whole Nazi imprints and the ideology used in Will to Power, but the two things I want to focus on are the concepts of master and slave morality. Alright, Nietzsche believed that there are two different types of morality, and each had their own inherent weaknesses and their own inherent strengths and different character traits. So you have master morality. Master morality is the idea that these are strong, prideful, and powerful people, that they will take the power. The name of the book is literally called Will to Power. And he coined the term in 1883, but he spent this time developing this morality that's power can either be given or it can be taken. And the master morality is the morality that takes it, and it's always the elite in charge of the public. We can think of it as the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. But anyways, master morality is the morality that takes the power, that seizes that power and uses it to oppress those of the slave morality, the people who give up their power. And the slave morality is characterized by their kindness, their openness, and being gentle, whereas the master morality is characterized as, taking the power. You need to be strong, you need to be decisive. And you should definitely look for these two things when you're analyzing a character, to see how they respond in terms of their surroundings. Are they timid? Are they giving in? Or are they going out? Are they seeking to make that or take that power for themselves? And I think this is something you should look for in all of your readings, because this might be someone taking power from another person. This might be someone giving up their power to nature, to a system. And it's all about this idea of what is the power transfer. Are you giving up your power, or are you taking that power? You'll read a story later on called The Fisherman. I highly encourage you to take a look at what type of morality he is in that situation. All right, you'll get to it later down the line, but analyzing how your character responds in these situations, how they act, and how they use their power is really important, telling you who they are and their different types of morality. So that is Will to Power by Friedrich Nietzsche, the two important things that you need to know. Alright, so existentialism is a humanism, the second thing that I'm going to talk about here. Alright, I'm also going to talk about bad faith a little bit later, just give you a quick overview. But existentialism is a humanism was a lecture given by Jean-Paul Sartre, or Sartre, depending on how you look at it, in 1946, after the war. It was originally a response to critics who were saying that existentialism was a elitist concept, that it was something that was anti-God, and so forth. And we'll cover this in class, and I do recommend you read it, but I'm here to actually talk about something it says in relation to what we were talking about before, ethical nihilism. So ethical nihilism says that there's no universal truth, that my truth, my ethics could be different from yours, and there's no reason that they should be the same. But what existentialism is, humanism says that we need to live in complete responsibility with that. That if we're going to act, we need to take up that mantle, we need to take up that responsibility and own up to our actions. And that sounds pretty simple. But it's also, we need to be living in accordance with the morals of the whole. And that's not saying that there is a common moral, there's not saying that there is something that we all must follow. But when you're living in society, you must live in accordance with what the society generally perceives as normal or ethical. So this is really important when you're looking at the stranger, but it's also really important when you're thinking about how people own up to their actions, that they might do whatever they want, but as long as they're taking responsibilities for it, and as long as they're living their life truly, it's allowed. All right? But also living your life truly is something that's also very, very important, because we're going to talk about bad faith. So bad faith is a philosophical concept created by the philosophers Simone de Beauvoir and Jean-Paul Sartre to kind of illustrate the phenomenon that you could be living in complete denial about who you really are. It's lying to yourself. So bad faith can also be described as two-mindedness and a bunch of other ways, but essentially lying to yourself about your true purpose, what you really should be, and instead living in bad faith. Bad faith is this essentially going against who you're meant to be and trying to be something that you're not. And as long as you're living in bad faith, you're pretty much kind of lying to yourself about who you are. And so our pursuit as a society, based on these two philosophers, should be to not live in bad faith, to live in pure faith, I would say. So I'm just going to take a second longer to touch upon a little bit more about bad faith. So bad faith also is where human beings are oppressed by society, and this goes back to the political nihilism we were talking about. That under pressure from these social structures, they adopt false values because that's what they are expected to become, and they disown their freedom that they give this away because they are living someone else's truth. Hence, bad faith is living inauthentically. And really, the pursuit of these both these philosophers is to get us to face our own situations and ask ourselves: are we living authentically to ourselves? So yeah. So the final book I'm going to talk about is The Rebel by Albert Camus. Or Camus. It's really Camus, but it's weird. Anyways, The Rebel by Albert Camus. Camus was published in 1951. He worked in this for 9 years straight. And essentially it's a commentary on the first half of the 20th century and why we rebel, what pushes us to do that. And he talks a lot about this in conjunction with political nihilism and ethical nihilism, and how that these structures, that these terrors that we've encountered are a result of people needing to put their ethics, their morals upon us and forcing that upon us. So he talks about like the ideology of the rebel, what they should be fighting for, and how they are not only fighting for themselves but fighting for their people and fighting to free them and to essentially free them all from bad faith. I think that's one of the best ways to look at it, and that's how I've really looked at it. So this is the end of my little presentation, and there's a couple things I just want to give you an overview of that I think are probably the most important parts of this for you. When you look at these different overviews and these different sketches and these different books, what you're looking for is these books represented in other books, all right? These are main philosophical concepts, and they kind of dictate how a person will act in relation to other people, how they will regard the world around them. And I think that's really important, especially in this class, because not only will you be reflecting on the characters that you are reading, but you're also going to be reflecting upon yourself. So it's important before you start this class to think about how these ideas play into your own life. Get that conversation started with yourself early, because it's going to be easier to reflect upon who you are as a person later on. And also, it's incredibly important for college essays. Greatest thing on your mind right now. College essays, you need to be authentic, right? You can't be living someone else's truth. You need to be presenting your own truth. And that's pretty much the best advice I can give you, is to essentially not lie in your college essay, be who you are, and make sure that who you are, that who you know you are, is who you decide you are. That you're not being pressured into creating something or being something that society or your parents or everybody else wants you to be. So kind of finding your finding your true purpose and pursuing that. Great. All right, I am out.